Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about modesty. We are not going to try to really get into what modesty is or whether it's good or bad. The assumption in this video is going to be that it is a good thing and it is necessary for society. Although I'm going to give a couple of points on why modesty is a good thing. And we can reference to a couple of philosophers like someone like Confucius. He believed that modesty is a reflection of one's character and respect for societal norms. That's why it's important. Immanuel Kant believed that it shows the respect and dignity of oneself and others. Another philosopher like Simone de Beauvoir, who is a left-leaning person, and she's a feminist, and she believed that modesty, dressing modesty, is a form of empowerment and resistance against societal objectification. In her book, The Second Sex, it's kind of funny how like communist and left-leaning people in this day and age kind of like advocate for like sex workers and stuff like that, despite the fact that like a sex worker is literally selling herself for capitalist, for the pimp and stuff like that. Like it's insane like how a left-leaning person doesn't see how a sex worker is like the most insulting thing for a communist and communist morality. And it's kind of pathetic when someone calls themselves a sex worker. Like, you're not a sex worker, honey. You are a fucking prostitute. You're a whore. Like, they talk as if they're like Sonia from Crime and Punishment. Like, they will have to do it for like, their family and stuff like that. No, this is what you are. You're a porn star. You're a pathetic piece of shit. You're not a sex worker. Like, they treat themselves like this. Like, it's fucking retarded. But whatever. I have a picture here, and I'm going to show it to you. I gathered it around. It's not really accurate, so don't get too much obsessed with it. I just quickly put it in some order here. As you can see, in this picture, it is like basically we have 50 images, and it's from number 1 to number 50, and obviously it's getting worse the more we get to number 50. You're probably going to have a problem here because I know personally that a lot of people even don't find some like number 50 problematic. Right? They say, what's wrong with it? It's totally okay. It's totally normal. If you're that like detached from what modesty is, okay, just imagine there's a naked woman in number 50, right? If you think number 50 isn't that here, just imagine like something that you would consider immodest, dressing immodesty. So, like, surely you have some idea, or you probably don't agree. Then don't agree that modesty is bad, that modesty is good. Then there's no point in watching this video. Yeah, you're basically going to say that number 50 is bad, and how can we prevent from going to this? How can we prevent society and people to dress like this? So I think it's important to know what exactly is the problem here and what makes number 50 different than number 40, than number 30, like stuff like that. And the main answer is that it's showing more skin, right? The more skin you show, the worse it gets, obviously. Being naked is the worst situation. So how can we prevent it? How can we prevent something like number 50 from happening? Well, obviously, the law has to come in, right? Law has to say something about it and prevent it. But what can law say? Like, don't show skin around breast. Don't show too much skin. Like, don't show like 2-inch skin. How is it practical to like put such law into action? What can be done about this? And this is the problem that unfortunately we're facing. Look at something like number 5. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong here. If this was going to remain like this, what's wrong here? There's no problem. But how can law prevent number 5 turn into number 7, and prevent number 7 from turning into number 11, and number 11 from turning into number 14, and number 14 into number 15? How can it happen? And this is the problem, that it's going to be extremely difficult to like put a law on this. What if it's one more, like imagine number 5. Like, what if it's just showing 1 inch more skin? Like, if a cop, even rightfully so, goes after number 5, like it's gonna look ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. You look ridiculous. You look like you're bringing injustice to the world. It's not gonna look good. It's not practical. It's a bad idea because it is hard to say whether someone has crossed the law or not. It's going to be difficult to decide that. However, number 4 is different, right? Number 4 is the dress code for number 4 is pretty easy. It's clear whether you're crossing the law or not. Nothing above the hand and your fingers should be showing. Your neck shouldn't be showing. And it's pretty easy to like put a law on this. And this is usually right-wingers talk about online. And they say that, yeah, the good old days, right? The good old days where women dress like on number 4. That was the good old days. That was the day of modesty. That was where women wearing like slots and stuff. But think about it. We had number 4, right? Like a little before the Victorian era, and even on the beginning of the Victorian era, people used to wear like number 4 all the time. So what went wrong? How did we end up like now in a situation that number 12 and 30 are slowly becoming the norm? Number 10 is like easily accepted. And number 11 is like even hot. How did it come to this? What went wrong? What is the issue? If you think about it a little bit, you see where the issue is. And the main issue with this is, like, believe it or not, fashion. It's the race on who can be more flashy, eye-catching, who can get more attention. This is what is causing it. And eventually, there will come a time that showing more skin becomes a tool for gaining more attention. And people will risk breaking the law for gaining more attention. People do it all the time. People try to be controversial. People do this all the time. People who like use steroids on like competition and stuff. People who cheat on tournaments. People do it to gain attention, and law isn't that important. And it becomes a lot more difficult with something like clothes and dress, because it will happen over time. It's going to be much harder to detect who is breaking the law, unlike in tournaments. Like, we can easily see who's cheating, but we can't see who's easily breaking the dress code laws. And when we think about it, that fashion is the problem, and this eye-catchiness is the problem, you begin to see a more important thing here, that even number 1 has problems. Look at the glove. I'm so happy I found this picture because I was looking for it. Look at the gloves on her hand. It is a fashionable thing among Muslims, I assume. Like, it has a golden zip, and it is much more eye-catchy than normal things that Muslims wear. And this is the start of the decay, as crazy as it sounds. One day we are going to see number 1 turn into number 50 over time in a country like Saudi Arabia. The decay is already started there. And so now that we now that we understood what the problem is, what can we do? If number 1 is problematic, if number 4 is problematic, if number 50 is like problematic, what should we wear? What is the solution here? And the solution is actually pretty simple, a really good one. The solution is something close to a uniform, like a universal dress. Whenever you go outside, there should be a specific clothes you wear, and when you go outside, the government should decide what that dress should be. This way, fashion dies, or it gets redirected towards something else other than dress. Of course, we can have different uniforms or clothes for different situations. For example, in winter, we can have a different thing. For summer, we can have a different thing. And even for like a beach or specific places, we can have different things. Right. I was talking to someone and they said like women wear immodesty, like in beach, like they're wearing bikini and stuff like that. And they're wearing really bad clothes. And while I agree, like, what is the point of bikini? Like this lambada stuff, like don't fucking wear anything. Like, who are you kidding? Whether we see your asshole or not depends on wind, and like whether the thing you're wearing like moves 1 inch away, like you're making fun of yourself. Like, don't fucking wear it. Who are you kidding? If you come out naked, that's much more honorable thing. At least it's clear what you're doing here. But when we think about like something like beach, a dress code there would actually be a good idea, because modesty is associated with choice, right? Nobody would blame a naked woman if she is like forced to be naked. And this is the same thing for something like beach. If you are forced to wear a certain thing, if you attend beach, then we can't really blame women. We can blame government, and the human dignity will remain. And one more thing, another problem with something like number one that I see so many Muslims like defend, and they say that this is the good thing to wear and stuff. It's the problem of practical. Women drive cars, women do so many things in their life. Like, how do you expect women to like wear number one and drive a car? Like, we're talking about like touching your phone, and it's like, how can you touch it with a glove and stuff like that? The practical issues here is going to prevent number one from being permanent, right? Some people say that showing no skin at all is the solution, but just as I said, it's going to be like seen as injustice and even ridiculous. Imagine your mother is trying to show you something on your phone, and like the fucking glove is not allowing her. Like, it sounds insane. Like, it's not attainable. Even if number one is the correct way for women to wear dress, and because of the practical implication of it, we can attain it. And if number one is correct, and we don't allow it to be the case, the only way we can solve this issue is by bringing a universal dress, basically a uniform. And wearing a uniform actually has its benefits. And there are so many studies that showing that when people are wearing a uniform in a like business or in a certain environment, in a like religious meetings or stuff like that, it is bringing a sense of belonging to a community, which is something Americans and the West desperately fucking need. If you think the idea of like a universal dress or a uniform is like an insane idea, you are retarded. Or like it cannot be implemented in society. You are retarded, or you're living under a rock. It's already happening. And this is one of the reasons modesty is much more preserved in a country like Saudi Arabia than in like a country like America, or in like Europe, or even in East Asian countries. And I kind of forgot about one important point. Is this woman wearing modesty? Now, as you can see, she's wearing much better than number 15 that we talked about. However, this is a prostitute in a red light district. She is in the middle of her work, and this is her dress of choice. This is what a prostitute wears to work. This image alone shows how much we have been robbed of our sense of modesty, how much in decay our culture is, that we can't recognize that our mother and sister are wearing the same fucking dress a prostitute wears during her work. This is really telling, right? And this is especially important for people who think that number 15 isn't a bad thing. Yeah, that was the final point. So yeah, this has been the solution. I hope this video has been useful. I tried to address most things that I thought might be important in this video, but yeah, if you have any comment, if you have any idea, criticism, praise, whatever. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that gay shit, and thanks for watching this video.